Have you ever wondered why some people walk into a room and instantly command silence, while others remain invisible no matter how hard they try? The problem isn't what you say, or even what you do. It's the aura you project. Today, we'll uncover how to build an aura so powerful it makes others bend to your will. Power does not belong to the loudest voice or the kindest heart. It belongs to the one whose presence alters the atmosphere itself. To achieve this, you must first understand. People are not led by reason, but by perception. Your task is not to convince them with logic, but to make them feel your inevitability. Step 1. Become unreadable. Most people go through life believing influence is earned through kindness, fairness, or reason. They think if they explain themselves well enough, smile often enough, or show compassion, others will naturally respect them. But this is a dangerous illusion. The world does not bow to fairness. It bends to force, perception, and the strength of one's presence. Those who cling to the idea that goodness alone is enough remain forever at the mercy of those who project power. The problem lies in misunderstanding human nature. Human beings, no matter how civilized they appear, are guided by instincts more than logic. They follow those who seem unshakable, not those who are gentle. They obey those who radiate authority, not those who plead to be heard. Consider the countless times you have spoken truth, only to be ignored, while someone with less knowledge but greater presence was followed. It is not justice that commands loyalty, it is aura. The common man fails because he confuses being liked with being respected. He tries to win hearts through generosity and openness, believing that if he shows his best side, people will naturally stand beside him. Yet when the moment of decision comes, these same people hesitate, betray, or abandon him, because there was no fear of consequence in disappointing him. Liking is a weak glue. It breaks at the first sign of pressure. Respect mixed with a hint of fear binds far tighter. The problem, therefore, is that people try to build influence on affection when they should be building it on power. Another mistake is overexposure. When you make yourself too familiar, when you give away too much of yourself, people stop valuing you. Familiarity dulls authority. The person who is always available, always transparent, is taken for granted. In contrast, those who maintain distance, who keep their intentions hidden, and who choose their words carefully, generate curiosity. Curiosity becomes respect, and respect becomes obedience. The absence of mystery is the death of influence, and this is where many fail without even realizing it. The weak also believe that explaining themselves will solve the problem. They think clarity creates loyalty. But persuasion through words rarely lasts. Once your words are forgotten, so is your influence. What endures is the impression you leave, the silent weight of your presence, the aura that makes others hesitate before opposing you. When your presence alone can silence a room, then you no longer need to explain. Those who lack this presence are doomed to repeat themselves endlessly, convincing no one. People also err by seeking equality in every interaction. They strive to be seen as just another person among their peers, hoping this humility will win them acceptance. But equality breeds competition, not loyalty. When others see you as their equal, they feel no reason to follow you. They see no consequence in defying you. Authority is established by separation, by elevating yourself above the crowd, by ensuring that your presence feels larger than theirs. Those who diminish themselves in pursuit of approval create only weakness. The problem, in truth, is not that people lack intelligence or ability. It is that they fail to shape how others perceive them. In the brutal theater of human interaction, perception outweighs reality. A weak man who appears strong is obeyed. A strong man who appears weak is ignored. The game is not about who you truly are, but about the aura you project. Yet most walk blindly, assuming their quiet virtues will one day be recognized, while the world tramples them beneath the boots of those who understand perception. There is also the issue of fear. Many are afraid to stand apart, to project dominance, to be seen as too powerful. They fear being disliked or criticized, not realizing that weakness earns far greater contempt. The one who tries to please all ends up pleasing none. The one who dares to radiate strength, even at the cost of angering some, gains far more loyalty than the timid ever will. People admire courage even when they resent it. They despise weakness even when they pity it. The essence of the problem, then, is simple people try to win influence by appealing to the best in others, when influence is won by mastering the instincts that truly govern human behavior. They rely on kindness where they should rely on presence. They explain when they should remain silent. They reveal when they should conceal. They seek approval when they should command respect. And because of this, they find themselves ignored, dismissed, and ultimately ruled by those who understand that aura, not goodness, is the foundation of power. Step 2. The nature of power. Power is not a matter of chance, nor is it a gift handed down by fate. Power is constructed, cultivated, and projected with precision. Those who misunderstand its nature either chase it blindly or squander it when they finally grasp it. To understand how to build an aura that bends people to your will, one must first understand what power truly is and where it comes from. Power does not exist in the abstract. It exists only in the minds of others. It is not your strength alone that matters, but the belief others have in that strength. A weak man who convinces the world he is invincible wields more authority than a strong man who hides his power. Power is therefore perception, an illusion that becomes reality through repetition and demonstration. It is not enough to be powerful. You must appear powerful, and you must never allow that appearance to slip. At its core, power is about influence, the ability to shape decisions, control outcomes, and bend the will of others without their realizing it. Some imagine power as brute force, the domination of one man over another through strength or violence. But brute force is crude, temporary, and costly. True power operates silently. It compels others to act in your favor willingly, even when it is against their own interest. This is the highest form of power, when obedience feels like choice and loyalty feels like instinct. To wield such power, one must understand human weakness. People crave leadership. They long to follow someone who radiates certainty, because certainty provides them with relief from doubt. Most individuals are paralyzed by hesitation. They lack the will to choose and therefore look to others who appear to have clarity. Power, then, is not about knowing all the answers. It is about convincing others that you do. The nature of power lies in this certainty, this projection of inevitability that silences all questions. Another truth about power is its dependence on scarcity. That which is rare is valued. That which is common is ignored. A man who makes himself too available dilutes his authority, for presence without restraint breeds familiarity, and familiarity destroys awe. Power thrives on distance, on the calculated withholding of oneself, on making your attention feel like a reward. When others compete for your presence, your value increases. When you chase after theirs, you diminish yourself. This is why rulers hold audiences rarely, why the mysterious figure inspires greater reverence than the transparent one. Scarcity feeds perception, and perception sustains power. Power is also deeply tied to fear, not the crude terror of violence, but the subtle fear of loss, exclusion, or disapproval. When others fear the consequences of crossing you, they obey without resistance. Fear sharpens respect, makes loyalty stable, and keeps ambitions in check. But fear alone is not enough. It must be balanced with admiration. Too much fear breeds resentment. Too little fear breeds complacency. The nature of power lies in the delicate equilibrium between these two forces, where people love you enough to follow, but fear you enough never to betray. Symbols also play a crucial role in power. People are moved less by logic than by images, rituals, and appearances. Authority is strengthened through visible markers: how you dress, how you speak, how you carry yourself. A crown is just metal and jewels, yet it commands armies. A uniform is just fabric, yet it makes men obey orders they would otherwise reject. Symbols create an aura larger than the individual, and those who understand this weave symbols into their presence until others cannot separate the man from the myth. The wise do not ignore appearances, for appearances are the skin of power. The nature of power is also fluid. It expands and contracts depending on how it is wielded. If you overextend, if you reveal too much ambition too quickly, you invite resistance. If you underplay, if you hesitate to assert your will, you invite dismissal. Power must grow like a shadow, always expanding, but never so abruptly that it alarms. Each move must feel natural, inevitable, as though it was simply the way things were meant to be. This gradual, calculated growth ensures that resistance is weak, because people do not notice the shift until it is too late. Finally, power thrives on control of narratives. The truth of events matters far less than the story told about them. History is filled with men whose actions were no greater than those of others, yet they are remembered as giants because they controlled the narrative. The nature of power is inseparable from the ability to shape perception, to define victories, to cast failures as lessons, and to ensure that others repeat your version of events until it becomes the only version that exists. The one who controls the narrative controls reality, and the one who controls reality controls power. Step 3. Building the aura. An aura is not a costume you put on for the world. It is a force that radiates from you, shaping how others perceive you before you ever speak. The weak stumble through life believing people see them as they truly are. But this is false. People see only the version of you that your aura allows them to see. If your aura projects weakness, you will be dismissed. If it projects strength, you will be followed. If it carries mystery, you will be feared and admired at the same time. To build such an aura requires discipline, calculation, and the understanding that human beings obey perception more than truth. The first principle of building an aura is silence. Words are cheap, overabundant, and easily forgotten. The more you speak, the more you reveal, and the more ordinary you appear. Power thrives on restraint. A measured tongue creates weight. Silence forces others to fill the gap with their own imagination. When you say little, every word becomes valuable. People hang on to your speech, search for meaning, and assume wisdom in your restraint. This silence builds the impression of depth, even if you reveal nothing. It is not brilliance that creates awe, but the suggestion of brilliance hidden behind silence. Alongside silence, there must be mystery. When people know everything about you, they lose respect. Predictability makes you common, and what is common cannot inspire awe. To build mystery, you must become selective with your presence. Do not reveal your plans, your emotions, or your weaknesses. Appear calm in moments of chaos, deliberate in moments of uncertainty, and distant when people seek to pry too deeply. Let others guess at your motives, and let them fear the unknown possibilities of your next move. People fear what they do not understand. If you cloak yourself in mystery, they will respect boundaries they cannot define. Confidence is the next pillar of aura. Not the fragile confidence of one who boasts, but the unshakable certainty of one who moves as though the outcome is already decided in his favor. Confidence must be carried in your posture, your walk, your eyes, and your voice. Do not allow hesitation to stain your actions, for hesitation spreads like disease, weakening both you and those who follow you. Even when uncertain, act as if certainty is natural. People do not follow truth, they follow conviction. The appearance of unbreakable confidence creates a gravitational pull that draws others toward you, often against their will. But confidence alone is not enough. There must also be danger. A powerful aura cannot be purely pleasant, for pleasantness invites exploitation. You must cultivate an edge, an undercurrent of potential consequence that makes people hesitate before crossing you. This does not require constant displays of aggression, but rather a subtle energy that suggests you are not one to be trifled with. A single well-timed act of severity can cast a long shadow, reminding everyone that your charm is paired with steel. When admiration is mixed with fear, loyalty becomes firm and rebellion becomes rare. Discipline is another foundation. An undisciplined man cannot sustain an aura. For every slip of indulgence, every uncontrolled emotion, every careless display chips away at the illusion. The aura is a performance, but it must be a performance so consistent that it becomes reality. Control your tone, your gestures, your habits. Never allow anger to expose weakness. Never allow laughter to cheapen your image. Never allow fatigue to show in your face. The man who commands himself commands others, for self-mastery radiates authority far more powerfully than words ever could. Clothing symbols and style must also be treated as weapons. People are swayed by images more than by truth, and the way you present yourself becomes a silent proclamation of your power. Dress not as the ordinary do, but with intention. Every detail must suggest authority, refinement, or danger. Your appearance must reinforce the impression you want others to hold of you. A strong aura is not built only through actions, but through the symbols others associate with you. When they see you, they must immediately think of strength, control, and inevitability. Another strategy is selective exposure. Do not appear too often, for overexposure breeds contempt. Appear at moments that matter, and in ways that heighten your importance. Let your absence create hunger, and your presence create impact. When people see you rarely, they speak of you more. When they see you constantly, they grow bored. Scarcity makes you valuable, just as it makes gold more precious than iron. Your aura grows when your presence feels like a privilege rather than a guarantee. Finally, to build an aura, you must control how others speak of you. Reputation is the shadow of your aura, and once lost, it is nearly impossible to reclaim. Guard it fiercely. Correct slights swiftly, reward loyalty publicly, and ensure that your name is spoken with weight. When others speak of you with respect, your aura strengthens even in your absence. When they mock you, your aura collapses no matter how powerful you believe yourself to be. To build and maintain an aura that bends people to your will, reputation must be treated as a weapon sharper than any blade. Step 4. The art of fear and respect. To command others, you must learn the delicate balance between fear and respect. Both forces, when mastered together, create an aura so strong that disobedience becomes unthinkable. But when tilted too far toward one side, the balance collapses. Fear without respect breeds hatred, and respect without fear breeds weakness. The art lies in weaving the two together so tightly that people cannot separate their admiration from their caution. Respect begins with perception. People do not respect what is common or easy to access. They respect what feels rare, elevated, and untouchable. If you wish to be respected, you must first lift yourself above the crowd. Speak less, act with deliberation, and avoid lowering yourself to petty quarrels. Those who descend into the chaos of common disputes lose their dignity. Instead, you must make yourself appear larger than life, a figure whose presence alone settles arguments. Respect grows when people see that you do not waste your strength on trivialities, but reserve it for decisive moments where your authority is undeniable. Fear, on the other hand, is born from consequence. People may admire you, but admiration alone will not restrain betrayal. They must know, even if only subconsciously, that crossing you brings a price too steep to pay. This does not mean constant cruelty or open threats. That would only expose insecurity. True fear is subtle. It is the awareness that your patience has limits, that your kindness is measured, and that your retaliation, though rare, will be unforgettable. A single act of cold precision, carried out when necessary, echoes louder than 1,000 warnings. When people witness that you are capable of decisive severity, they remember it far longer than they remember any charm. To sustain both fear and respect, you must also control your emotions. Rage, when uncontrolled, destroys respect and turns fear into contempt. But calculated anger, displayed sparingly, can be a powerful tool. A sudden shift in tone, a deliberate show of displeasure, or a measured silence can instill more dread than shouting ever could. When people realize that your wrath is not chaotic but intentional, they begin to measure their actions carefully, fearing the quiet judgment that may precede a decisive strike. Your anger must always serve a purpose, never a weakness. Respect deepens when it is paired with generosity, but only when that generosity is deliberate and strategic. Rewards given too freely are taken for granted, but rewards bestowed selectively, when tied to loyalty or achievement, carry immense weight. When you elevate someone publicly, others strive for the same recognition. Yet generosity must always be bound by discipline, for if it is endless, it loses value. Let others taste your favor sparingly, like drops of water to the thirsty. When they know that your approval is rare, they will treat it as a treasure, and respect for you will grow accordingly. Fear must also be shaped by distance. If you allow people too close, they see your flaws, your hesitations, your humanity. Familiarity softens the edge of fear, for people begin to think you are no different than they are. To preserve the aura of consequence, you must maintain distance. Appear among others with intention, not habit. Let your silence your absence, and your select appearances remind them that your presence is not a gift they are owed. The one who walks among all too freely becomes ordinary. The one who chooses when to appear becomes unforgettable. There is also an art to unpredictability. If people know exactly how you will react, they grow bold in testing your limits. But when your responses are uncertain, when your actions carry an element of unpredictability, hesitation creeps into their minds. They begin to wonder, will he reward me, ignore me, or strike me down? This uncertainty becomes a cage stronger than chains, for the fear of the unknown keeps people cautious. Respect provides stability, but unpredictability sharpens fear, and together they create obedience without open resistance. The balance between fear and respect is not static. It must be adjusted according to circumstance. In times of peace and loyalty, lean more on respect, letting admiration and trust deepen bonds. In times of betrayal, disorder, or challenge, tilt toward fear, reminding everyone that consequences are swift. The art lies in never allowing one to eclipse the other completely. When fear becomes terror, people unite against you. When respect becomes pure affection, people grow bold in defiance. But when both forces are present, loyalty becomes firm, for people admire you enough to follow and fear you enough never to abandon. Symbols and rituals reinforce this balance. A title, a gesture, or even the controlled silence of your presence can remind others of your authority without a word spoken. Fear lives in memory, respect lives in perception, and both can be woven into symbols that outlast even your direct actions. A crest, a phrase, a reputation. These become tools that make people bend to you long after the moment has passed. The wise ruler does not rely on action alone, but shapes the environment so that fear and respect are constantly renewed in the minds of those around him. Step 5. Bending others. The final measure of power is not the image you project, nor the fear you inspire, nor the respect you command. These are the tools, the foundations, the scaffolding. But the true test of mastery is this: can you bend others to your will without them realizing it? Can you guide their choices so that your victory feels to them like their own? Influence that requires force is fragile. Influence that feels voluntary is unbreakable. To bend others, you must first master the subtlety of suggestion. Never order when you can guide. Never push when you can lead. People resist commands, for commands reveal domination. But when you frame your desire as their idea, they embrace it with pride. This is the highest art of control, shaping desires so that others believe they act freely, when in reality they move along the path you have laid for them. A well-placed word, a planted thought, or a calculated silence can achieve more than 100 decrees. The key is to understand the ambitions of others. Every person hungers for something: status, wealth, recognition, security, affection. If you can identify what drives them, you can shape their behavior as easily as a sculptor shapes clay. When their goals appear to align with yours, they will act in your favor with eagerness, believing they serve themselves. A ruler who forces obedience may be obeyed reluctantly, but a ruler who disguises his will as the fulfillment of another's desire commands with ease. The secret lies in making your will appear to be the natural extension of their own. Flattery is often misunderstood. Weak men use flattery to seek approval, but the strong use it to manipulate. Flatter not to gain favor, but to unlock obedience. A carefully timed compliment makes a man lower his guard, making him receptive to your influence. But flattery must be restrained, for excess exposes your intent. When delivered sparingly, it becomes a key to open doors that resistance would keep shut. With flattery, you do not merely praise, you disarm, and once disarmed, a man bends more easily. Another tool is controlled generosity. To give freely is to waste, to give strategically is to bind. A gift, when offered with calculation, creates a debt far larger than its cost. People are chained not by chains, but by obligation. When they feel indebted to you, they bend willingly, for repayment feels like honor. Yet the art lies in balance. Give too little, and the bond is weak. Give too much, and gratitude is replaced with greed. Every act of generosity must be weighed so that it creates dependence rather than satisfaction. To bend others, You must also master appearances. People are drawn to those who seem destined for greatness. They crave to be attached to a figure who radiates inevitability, for in serving him they feel their own stature rise. When you appear as the center of power, others will orbit you like planets, eager to stay in your gravity. This does not require constant action. It requires consistency in projecting control. The man who looks as though he cannot fail finds that others shape their will to align with his, for no one wishes to be left behind. Fear, too, plays its role here, though subtly. A man may admire you, but admiration without the awareness of consequence leads to complacency. To ensure loyalty, bend people through the fear of exclusion, punishment, or loss. When they know that disobedience carries a shadow of cost, they will obey without hesitation. Yet this fear must be like a whisper, not a shout. Let them sense it in your silence, in your gaze, in the stories told of you. A reputation for decisive retaliation will bend people long before you ever need to act. Manipulating groups requires a different art than manipulating individuals. Crowds move not by logic but by emotion, by symbols, and by the illusion of unity. If you can present your will as the will of the group, resistance dissolves. No one wishes to be the outcast, the lone dissenter. When you make others believe that to follow you is to be part of the majority, they bend instinctively, seeking safety in numbers. The greatest leaders bend, not only individuals but entire crowds, binding them together in the illusion that their collective choice is theirs alone, when in truth it is yours. Patience is essential in bending others. To rush is to reveal your intent. Influence works like water wearing down stone, not through force, but through persistence. A hint dropped here, an idea planted there, a seed allowed to grow in silence until it sprouts in another's mind, as if it were their own creation. The most loyal servant is the one who believes he serves himself, unaware that his path was carved long before he chose it. To bend others is to master time, to let your will unfold slowly until resistance becomes impossible. The final ingredient is control of narrative. People believe what they are told repeatedly, especially when it flatters their sense of identity. If you control the stories, the interpretations, the meaning attached to events, you control how others think, bend their perception of reality, and you bend their decisions effortlessly. The one who defines the story of victory and defeat, loyalty and betrayal, honor and shame, does not need to issue orders, for orders are already written in the minds of those who listen. To bend others is not to shout commands, but to whisper truths until they no longer question who holds authority. Power is not granted. It is taken, shaped, and projected through the aura you build and the influence you command. The weak wait to be recognized, while the strong create an image so undeniable that recognition becomes inevitable. Respect, fear, mystery, and perception. These are the tools that separate rulers from the ruled. Once you understand how to bend others, you no longer chase approval. You become the force that others chase. But remember, this knowledge is not for those content with mediocrity. It is for those who wish to rise above the ordinary, to stand where few dare to stand, and to shape the world instead of being shaped by it. The path is demanding, but the rewards are absolute loyalty without question, presence without challenge, and influence without resistance. If this has awakened something in you, an ambition, a hunger, a fire, then you already know you cannot stop here. Each lesson builds upon the last, and there are many more secrets to uncover. Subscribe now, because the next story may hold the one truth that changes how the world sees you forever.